Alrighty, everyone, welcome back. So, we begin our trade deadline previews for the 2024 trade deadline today with the Edmonton Oilers. So, the Oilers are an interesting team because as of right now, they are absolutely surging on this 16 or 17 game winning streak. I would like to preface by saying that this video is pre-recorded. It will upload after tonight's game between Edmonton and Vegas. So, there is a chance that this winning streak could have been lost. Or this could have been won. So it really depends. But as of right now, as of February 6th, the Oilers are 29-15-1 for 59 points, and they are third overall in the Pacific Division. So it's obvious they're going to be buyers. That's most likely what they're going to be. That really should not surprise anyone there whatsoever. Their current cap space, however, they don't have a whole lot. They only have $519,000 in cap space. So that is not a whole lot to move. Now, there is a chance that the Jack Campbell contract or some other LTIR money could be used here to make up some cap space. That's very possible that could happen. However, as of right now, they are pretty much right above the cap, which is not very surprising at all. You would expect that with a team like Edmonton, a team that has been, pretty good for a couple of years and paying a lot of players some pretty decent contracts. However, though, one thing I do like to keep in mind with all of these teams is we're also going to preview what their offseason may look like. So even though Edmonton's a buyer, they still have some UFAs and RFAs that are needed to be signed right now. So the UFA list currently goes as follows. You got Warren Foegele, Matthias Janmark, Connor Brown, Sam Gagner, Corey Perry, Vincent Desharnais, and Calvin Pickard. So not a whole lot of big-name players there. I will say that when you look at that. Foegele, big, hard-working player, works really hard when he's out there on the ice. One of my favorites to watch on Edmonton. Janmark, solid fourth liner. Same with Connor Brown. Gagner's looks pretty solid. Corey Perry, they just signed to a deal last month. So definitely there may be talks of keeping him. Vincent Desharnais, very solid, tall defenseman. And then obviously too, Calvin Pickard, the current backup goalie for this team. He may stay the current backup, or what I'll talk about in a little bit is Edmonton may go for another goalie, but we'll get into that in a second. So yeah, you look at all the UFAs, that's not going to cost you a whole lot of money. The most expensive one's probably Warren Foegele. After that, a lot of those guys are probably going to be around league minimum contracts, not a whole lot of money. So nothing too much to worry about there. Your RFA, it's only one of them, and it's Dylan Holloway. Holloway has been he hasn't really proved it at the NHL level, so I'm imagining he's probably going to get around league minimum, probably like a $925K deal or something like that. That's probably where we see Holloway get a contract. There is a chance, too, that he could be a movable piece at the deadline now that he is, expiring, and there's a chance that if Edmonton looks to acquire a goalie per se or a defenseman or something like that, Holloway as a prospect who hasn't really worked out that well with the Oilers could be the guy that gets dealt. That's very possible that will happen. So I also want to keep in mind, too, that McDavid and Draisaitl both expire soon. Draisaitl in 2025, so next season. McDavid in 2026. That's something you obviously got to keep in mind there. If you're the Edmonton Oilers, you got to keep in mind that your two best players in the world, arguably, are expiring in 2 years. So you don't want to make something that's a move with term. You probably want to go for a player that would be a rental for the Oilers. That's really what the Oilers are probably going to do at this year's deadline. Not look for guys with term, but rather guys that are expiring and purely rental deals. So, what are your wants if you're the Oilers? If I'm the Oilers, I'm looking for a backup goalie. Not a number one priority, but definitely it's something you should keep an eye out for. I've seen them there. They've looked like they're interested in Marc-Andre Fleury. That is something I've seen. I'm not sure if that's actually going to happen because obviously that's just rumors. But it's definitely a big possibility because when you think about it, Minnesota's out of the playoff race. Edmonton has the assets. Maybe those two collide. It might happen. It might. Other things that I was looking at was depth. You obviously want depth. Every team wants depth, of course. For a team like Edmonton, the depth's been better this year than it has been in previous years. However, you can't get enough depth. So obviously, that is something that the Oilers, I'm sure, are interested in. As well as that, too, maybe a defensive option. The defense has gotten a lot better since Paul Coffey came into the fold. However, there is a strong possibility that they do decide, hey, why not go out and acquire another defenseman? That's not really that bad of an idea. So maybe Edmonton will do that. We shall find out. And then as well as that, too, I have seen them in the talks for looking for another big top six forward, whether it's a center or a winger. I've seen more of a center, but it's probably going to be a winger because the center market is really shallow. You're going to notice that in a lot of these deadline previews that I do over the next couple of weeks, a lot of these teams, the center depth is really shallow for this year's deadline. So not a whole lot to be excited for there. But definitely they've taken some calls. They've looked at Scott Long. They've looked at Anthony Duclair in San Jose. Guys we will talk about in the coming weeks. Definitely those guys are going to be brought up a lot in my deadline previews until, obviously guys get traded and such. But definitely those are players that I see that could be on Edmonton's radar potentially. There's other guys too. But as of right now, those were the main three that I was seeing. But yeah, overall, backup goalie, depth, a defensive option, and then a top six winger is probably what you're looking at here if you're the Edmonton Oilers. Now, finally, what could be movable pieces that you can move for a deal? Now, the first round picks are obviously definitely on the table. I would imagine that Edmonton's probably going to move those to try and go for another cup run. If they see a guy that they like and it's a good enough offer, then probably, yeah, they're going to pull the trigger. Another guy, too, that I just remembered is Sean Walker from Philadelphia. That's a guy that Edmonton's inquired a little bit there, too. So keep him in mind. He may be a defensive option there for Edmonton. Philip Broberg, a defenseman there, has expressed interest that he doesn't want to play in Edmonton anymore and wants to get ice time elsewhere. Now, that may have changed since then because that obviously happened in, I believe, late December was when he said he didn't want to play for Edmonton. That could have changed, but if not, I'm sure there's other teams that would say, hey, we like that young defensive option there. He can fit very well in our team. Maybe that's who trades for him, so that's possible. And then I have this in here. It's not going to happen. I highly doubt it's going to happen. But there is a chance that they do move the Jack Campbell contract to clear up some space. Now, this is more of an offseason move than it is a trade deadline move, so you got to keep that in mind, obviously. But that is definitely a possibility. And then as well as that, too, a guy that I don't have on the list is definitely Dylan Holloway. Maybe Holloway gets moved if they make a big deal for a big-name player. But overall, Edmonton, they're really looking for guys. Their probably main option is probably going to be a top six forward, maybe a defensive-type player. But obviously, they're going to look for the firepower in a top six guy. So, anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you all for watching. If you're an Oilers fan, what do you think the Oilers should move and trade for at this year's deadline? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below on that. But anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.